Hey, what's happening, guys? It's Dean from Electronisounds. Thanks for joining me for episode 5 of how to make a dub techno track inside of the AKAI Force. I gotta admit today, guys, I'm really bushed. Yesterday, we did my longest video of all time. I did 1 hour and 50 minutes of editing samples inside of the AKAI Force. If you missed that one, or any of the previous episodes, I'm gonna put a link to the playlist containing all of the videos right up here in the corner. Stick around. Today we're going to lay out all of the samples inside of different drum tracks inside of the AKAI Force.
Electronisounds Audio, the YouTube channel for you.
Real quick, guys, I know some of the editing and some of this recording process can be a little bit tedious to some of you. So if you're not into these steps, eventually this is going to be a full course that people of all skill levels can learn from. I think a lot of these techniques are going to be useful for people who are using any DAW or any hardware samplers to produce their tracks, and not just users of the AKAI Force. So if the editing and the setup isn't really your bag, eventually you'll be able to skip around into any of the videos in this series. Again, I'm going to put a link to the playlist that contains all of the videos right up here in the corner. Thanks for watching, guys. What I want to do today, guys, is go ahead and get all of the samples loaded into drum racks inside of the AKAI Force. We're not going to be using audio tracks today. We're going to be using drum tracks for all of our tracks. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and insert the amount of drum tracks that we'll need. And you can do that by either pressing the plus button at the top of the screen and choosing drum, or we can actually press at the bottom here and just hold the number that corresponds to the track we want to load something on, and we're going to load a drum track. And what we're going to do is we're going to start labeling these as we go. We're going to need the first track to be for our kick. So I'm going to label that kick. And I like to use the apricot color inside of the AKAI Force for my drums. That's just a personal preference. All the color coding is just a personal preference, and I recommend that you come up with your own consistent way of coding your sound so that, visually things are consistent throughout your projects. So we'll have a track for our kick drum. We're going to take our second track, we're going to double click on that, and we're going to give this a name. This is going to be our tops, and what I consider tops is like hi-hats, rides, shakers, and things of that nature, but not snares and not claps and not kick drums. And you'll see why that we're dividing it up this way as we keep producing. I'm going to keep this one the same color as the kick drum so that my drum tracks are all apricot. We're going to add another track. This is going to be a drum track. I'll double click here, and this one is going to be our snares dash claps. Okay, and we're going to give this that same apricot color. All right, we'll go ahead and add another one, drum. Okay, and we'll double tap that to give it a name. This is going to be our bass, and I like to color my bass red, so we'll find the fire preset. There we go, close, and then we'll add another track. It's going to be a drum track again. We're going to double click that to give it a name, and this is going to be our chords. All of the chords will load into this drum bank here, and we'll give this kind of a neat little color here, maybe like, how about this one? Fantastic. And we'll add another one here, drum. We'll double click at the top there, and this one is going to be, it's not going to be our chords, but it is going to be our synths, because we have a couple of stabs that are just synthesizer samples, but they're not actually chord samples. And this way we can divide up our melodic elements and keep the chords all grouped together, those dub chords that we're going to affect similarly, and then the rest of our melodic content, which we'll put on these on this track for synths. Cool, and we'll give this kind of its own color as well. Cool, great, how about that? So we've got a track for kick, a track for tops, a track for snares and claps, a track for bass, a track for the chords, a track for the extra synths, and we still need one more track, drum, and we're going to double click this. Come on. And we're going to call this effects. And this is where we'll put like our down filters, our risers, our dirty vinyl noise, textures, and things of that nature. Effects. Do it. And I usually like to give this one the mint color. I think that looks really nice, and it sort of gels in my brain as to what this actually is. Okay, so we've got this labeled as the Spidericemidas collab, which is, you know, if you haven't seen the first few videos, I'm collabing with an iOS sound designer named Spidericemidas, who wrote a groove inside of the Grooverider app, and we've spent the last few sessions recording out the sounds and loops from that groove through various different creative ways into the Force. And then in the last episode, we went ahead and edited all those samples to be ready to load into the individual tracks inside of the Force. Okay, here we go, guys. We're going to start by loading all of the kick samples that we have edited out onto the kick track. And we're going to start by just selecting the kick track. We can either click at the top here to select the track, or we can click down here at the bottom to select what track we'd like to work with. We're going to go ahead and go into note mode. And what this is, guys, is we've got 64 pads here, and each of these pads I can load a different sound to. If we're, you know, creative and we press shift and octave, we actually get another 64 pads. So we have 128 pads available to us to load samples on in every single track here. What we're going to go ahead and do is hold shift and press octave down to get to our banks A through D, which on the MPC live would be 4 banks of 16 pads. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to, I can lay the kick drum samples out anywhere along these 64 pads, excuse me, that sort of works for us. But we're just going to keep it simple for now, and we're going to start by starting, you know, to just load the kick samples onto these pads here. I'm going to click the load button, and actually I'm not going to click the load button rather, but we'll go back to the matrix, and I'm going to go I'm sorry. Here we go. I'm going to hit edit. Sorry, it's very beginning here, so I lost my place a little bit. We're going to hit the edit button and then just tap the pad that we want to load a sample on. Now, because we're not going to actually be loading samples per se, all of the samples that we've recorded are already residing inside of our sample pool. That's why I got a little bit sideways there, guys. And now, all we have to do is scroll through these samples, and we can see as it, you know, as we scroll that it changes the name inside the box. It also changes the name right above the sample. And what we want to do is load literally every single kick sample that we have trimmed out and gotten prepared and ready to go onto these pads here. So I'll select the next pad, and we'll click sample, and I'm going to scroll over and we'll get the next one. Okay, so here we have the kick broken beauty, and then on this one we have kick parallel distortion. And then on this one, we have kick 1. And then on this one, if I double click this, I can get to the full list here, and we can literally just sort of scroll down if we want to. I'm not sure that this is necessarily faster, but it does give us, you know, more samples to actually see rather than just one at a time. And so we have our kick broken beauty, our kick parallel distortion, we have a kick 1, and we have some kick impacts, which are going to go on the effects track. And then down here we have a kick virus. So there's that one, and then we'll do that scroll down thing, and here's kick virus amp. So here's kick 1A, and then we'll scroll down again to virus amp 1B. We'll double click that, and we will scroll down again to kick amp 1. So now we've got, I don't know if you can hear the differences there. We're not on direct sound today. It's just the phone. I was hardwired in to the system with the lavalier mic for over 2 hours yesterday. And so today we're just free and clear, no wires between me and the device. So it's not really about, you know, hearing these. We've already heard these, and we'll be hearing them again in the future. Right now, it's just about getting everything laid out and, you know, ready to start working with inside of the Force. So now, If we go ahead and scroll over by holding, you know, the track button for track 2, we're going to get a completely empty layout again, and I can select any of these pads and start loading samples onto these. Now, this is for our tops, which I consider to be like hats, shakers, and rides, things like that nature, but not kicks and not snares. So, whoops, wrong button there. So if we double click our sample pool here, and I just start looking for not chords, we got a lot of chords. All right, this is fantastic. But rather, there's a hat loop, okay. Then I'll click the next pad. Okay, it's this one is the next one. Double click that sample there. Okay, so it's going to be the third 1, 2, 3. This one here. Cool. Whoops. I don't want to do that. All right, fantastic. Stop so we don't hear that loop playing back. Load something onto pad 4. And again, you know, we could just highlight the pad we want, and we could also just scroll with the wheel, you know. This one is hats, big sky, something or other. And then, so if we find the next one, you know, kind of a deal, and then we can, so either double click or scrolling with the wheel. Hats, big sky 1A. And this will be hats, big sky 1B. And this will be hats, big sky 1C, looks like. And let's see if we have any other sounds. Like we have a ride, I'm sure. So we can see if we can't find that ride to put on the rest of these. Now, let's go ahead and ride. Cool, there's like a loop there. Let's click the next pad and we'll scroll way down to rides. Okay, so here's ride amp, and double click this. We got ride amp 1A, a little bit different, awesome. Okay, ride big sky. And we'll scroll down to the next one. Ride and hats with delay. Let's get the next one. And this is giving us loops and one-shots to work with because we were really careful, you know, to get lots of different variations and lots of material to work with. We're going to have all kinds of fun here. So now we've got our kicks laid out on the kick track. We've got our tops laid out on the tops track. I'm going to click the next track, which is going to be our snares and claps. And we're going to go ahead and load all of the snares and claps onto these pads. We'll start by selecting that first pad and double tapping the sample here. And we're going to look for, actually, I think we'll scroll down and put the snares before we put the clap, even though the clap will come first alphabetically. And we're going to grab snare amp 1 there. This is really a clap anyhow. Alrighty. And I didn't take the time and go through and like rename everything to be super specific once we were done with the editing, because I figured that's just a whole other video and we can go ahead and just, you know, keep the names as they are for now. Okay, we'll scroll down and get the next snare sample that we've got in the sample pool. So snare 1, 2, and then this one. Some of these variations are going to be very, very subtle. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So cool. But if you look at the screen, I mean, you can see distinctly that we have two different samples here. And that sounds to me quite a bit different than, say, a machine gun snare roll or the other one. If you have two, anyway, little bit of difference, and that's what it's all about. So we got snares, big snare. So we'll get the next one underneath snares, big snare out of our sample pool. It's snare, big snare 1A. Looks like it's really a clean clap there. That's what I mean about the relabel. You know, some of these came from like a recording that was labeled snare, but then we got a clap out of that recording instead. And, you know, we could have gone through and relabeled all that, but it would have been quite a bit of, you know, extra time. This is clap Big Sky. Double click this and scroll down to snares and claps. Cool. And do it again. And just remembering, you know, which is the last one that I've loaded each time so that I grab the next one instead. So we've got all sorts of versions of snares and claps here now. Let's go ahead and load anything that was actually labeled clap, if there is anything labeled clap. Okay, hats. No, in fact, there isn't anything labeled clap, so... Now we can do neat stuff by like layering these together in different ways to create like thicker, you know, hitting snares and claps for like more aggressive sections of the track. My intention is kind of to start off mellow with this track and then sort of maybe build into a distorted finale because we have like quite a few distorted versions of some of the samples. So we've got kicks, tops, snares, and hats. Our next track is going to be bass, and we're going to go ahead and select the first pad here and just start loading all of our bass samples onto this. So we'll start with the first one. It says bass amp. Cool. Double click that. Not double click that, but click the second pad and start, okay, bass saturation. Grab the third pad, bass TB accent clip. Fourth pad, TB accent clip 1, cool. And TB accent clip 2. This is awesome, you guys. Okay, so this is TB accent 2. We'll load up the next sample. Actually, that's probably 1. No. Okay. That's TB accent clip. That's TB accent clip 1. It says the name in tiny letters all the way, even though it cuts it off kind of in the window. So this is the same. I want to load a different one here. So chord TB, here we go. Fantastic. Now we've got our bass samples that we've got ready to go. Trimmed out, and we can further trim this stuff out, you know, into further little tiny pieces as needed as we're going. So we'll go over to the next one, which is going to be our chords, and this is probably going to be quite a long one because we have a lot of chord samples. And Dub Techno, from my opinion, the chords are really, you know, the meat of it all. So to have the most variation there is really the way to go. Let's switch to a different clip, and I'll start loading them up. Okay, here we go. We'll select pad 1. I'll double click that to get into our sample pool. And we'll go ahead and choose the things that are labeled chord stab. Here's chord stab 101. Double tap this one. Chord stab 1A. Those are pretty much the same sound, actually. Even though they look a tiny bit different, if you look really close, that's actually pretty much the same sound. We're going to pass on having two of the same sound for no reason and move on to the next one. Fantastic. That's a chord stab multi 1. So the next one will be chord stab multi 2. And then there was a chord stab multi 3. Ooh. And then we have a chord stab multi 4 and a chord stab multi 5. Now, if I think that some things are sounding a little bit similar, I'll take a really, really hard look at the actual waveform itself, and I'll verify that it doesn't, look too similar, and that it, actually is bringing something, beneficial to the session. Because we don't need to load up, samples for no reason. There really should be an audible difference between them. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so chord stab multi 5. We're gonna see what's after that. Chord stab multi 6. Perfect. These two were a little similar. No, totally different though. Okay, so this is chord stab multi 6, so we're gonna double tap this, get chord stab multi 7, and after that comes chord stab virus tape delay, and then we have chord stab virus tape delay 1 and chord stab virus tape delay 2. Some more after that. Again, lots of variations of the chord. Okay, so this is Big Sky 2, I said, I think. So let's just double check that I've got this right. No, I don't. So chord stab virus, tape delay 1, chord stab. It's hard to, you know, talk and narrate as I'm also trying to remember the names. Chord stab with virus, tape delay 2. So this will be the one after that. Chord stab. Oh my gosh. Chord stab, virus, tape delay 2. So it's going to be this one. And then this is chords Big Sky. So this will be the one after chords Big Sky. So we have chords Big Sky 1. And then we have chords Big Sky 2. And then we have chords Big Sky. Chords Big Sky 3. And then we have, love this texture that's happening in the background as I'm loading these. Big Sky, I think this would be 4, 3, and 4. Yep, and then we'll get chords Big Sky 5. And we'll get chords. Oh, this is wonderful texture happening. Are you hearing this build here? I believe this was 6. I'll go ahead and stop that so we don't have to. But anyways, you can start to hear maybe some of the potential for some textures that are already just, you know, trying to escape from this section of the samples. So this is chords Big Sky 6. Let's see what's after that in our sample pool. Chords Big Sky 6. So we have chords amp. Yeah. Let's see the chords high amp. Let's see what's after that. Chords high amp. So then chord loop 2. And then chord loop 3. And then chord loop 3A. Yeah. Whoop. Yeah. Alright, so that's chord loop 3A. Double tap this. And chord loop 3A, chord loop 1. You can see we really did get a lot of samples of the chords. The most out of any other, you know, variations here. And chord stab 1, so chord stab 2. Whoop. And then chord stab 3. What's after chord stab 3? Whoop, whoop. Did that wrong. Okay, just double tap that and it was what's ever after chord stab 3. It would be chord stab 4 then. Got it? And there was a chord stab 5. I cannot believe the amount of variations we have. This is like amazing, you guys. And we're going just all the way up here. Chord stab 5. So chord stab 6A. And chord stab 6A1. And chord stab 7A. And chord stab, whoop, whoop. Chord stab 8A. We're almost done, guys. 8A down here now. Chord stab, double tap. It's 8A that we grabbed, so this will be 8B. Over here, we'll grab whatever's after 8B. Chord stab 9A, and there we have it. Woo! That's quite a lot of chord stabs. Looks like we got about 34 chord stabs here, guys. Yeah, I would say that this is probably going to be enough to get us a complete track. All friggin' right. We've got so much material to work with, and this is definitely the benefit to why we've taken so much time getting started, is because now you could see we just have all this at our disposal and ready to go. We've done quite a bit of loading and quite a bit of laying out. I'm going to go ahead and save what we've done so far, and then we'll load the last few samples up. We'll load save and project. I realize now what we've done, guys, is we've actually loaded up all of the melodic elements onto one track, and I really wanted to separate the chords from the synths. Now, this is an easy thing to do at this point. All we have to do is hit the copy button and copy track 5, and then we can go ahead and just paste this into track 6, we're going to double tap track 6, and we're going to go ahead and give this back its original name of synths, right? Do it. Now, maybe change that color to a different color, so it's a little bit different than our chords track. Now, if we go through the chords track and we tap the sounds, anything that's a chord we'll keep. Anything that's just a synthesizer hit, we will delete. That's a chord. That's a chord. Those are all chords. All chords. There's just a few that I'm trying to find. Maybe just one even. That's a chord. That one right there. So we're going to delete this from our chords track. That's a chord. That's a synthesizer. We're going to delete that one from our... Yeah, that one there. We're going to delete, hold delete, and just tap the pad. Gone, taken care of. Yeah, so that's a synth. So we're going to delete. That's a synth. We're going to delete. That's a chord. I'm going to call that a chord. That's a synth, not a chord. Cool. So what we've got now is we've got chords specifically. And now if we go to the next track, let's see here. I'm going to delete the first block of 16 right off the jump because we know that these are all chords. You know what I'm saying? So I can just easily hold delete and tap these 16 pads. Boom, boom, and those two as well. And now, if we go back over here, you know, we can see that it's like those ones. So like for instance, I can easily go back over to the here and do this sort of a deal and see what I remember from yeah, that's a chord. That's a synth. That's a chord. That's a chord. Cool. So that should hopefully match up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there was another one that, let's see here, that I deleted and thought was a synth. But over here, we've now deleted that. So we're missing one sample out of these. There's like another one shot somewhere in there that we sort of lost along the way. What I could do is I could hit undo until this lights up again. Check it out, guys. See? And now we haven't lost that sample, right? I just can't say it enough. I love the undo feature in this. Take note. App developers, take note. Hardware developers. Undo is like a lifesaver. Please undo. Everything should have undo. Multiple levels of undo. And now we can just double check that we're not. Okay, so delete, delete. Whoops. I'm hitting the wrong button, guys. Sorry about that. Stop. Delete, delete. Delete. Okay, cool deal. So now we have 5 synths on this track, and then we've, you know, they correspond to those holes that we took out of the last track. So we've separated our chords and our melodics. I mean, in our, you know, in our non-chord type melodics. And we can, you know, there's plenty of empty pads here that we can add more stuff to. If we were going to be super OCD about it and like this was bothering us per se, that it wasn't some sort of, you know, clean looking combination, we can fix that super easy. We can just hold the copy button, copy, and tap another pad, then delete that. We could go copy and put that here, then delete that. We could go copy and put that here, and then delete that. We could go copy, put it here, and then delete that. And lastly, we could go copy, put it here, and delete it. And now we've got this really clean looking, you know, sort of thing. That's not necessary, but just to show you how easy it is to just move stuff around inside of here. Awesome. Okay, lastly, we've got our effects. So let's load up anything that we've got in our sample pool that's an effect into this track here. We'll touch the pad that we want to load something to, and we're going to just hit edit, touch the pad, and then we can verify which pad we've got selected up here in the top of the screen. As I touch a pad, it changes the number. This is D16, this is C13. Down here in the bottom is like A01. So you can always know what pad you're on by looking at that number at the top. Keep in mind also that we're really just scratching the surface of kind of like what is possible inside of the Force. You can layer four samples onto every single pad, and you can play them back in a few different ways. We're being really simplistic so far and just loading one sample to each pad, and we might get a little bit more creative and do some different techniques with the layers on the pads as we go. I'm not going to promise that, but it might happen. So we'll go ahead and start with selecting pad 1. Again, we'll know that we've selected that by looking at the top, and we can just double tap that sample button there to get us into our sample pool. Actually, the first thing that I notice is we've got an Ableton stab that I did not load to our chords track. Let's go ahead and do that now so that it doesn't get lost in the mix, because that is a fantastic sample. I'm going to click back over to our chords track, and let's just put that on the first empty slot here. I'll double click, and there it is, Ableton stab. Fantastic. Again, if we wanted to stop there, if we wanted to fill in these spaces so that it looked a little bit neater visually, we could easily just copy a sample, put it there, then delete that sample. We could hold copy, touch this one, put it there, then we could delete this one. We could hold copy, take that last one, put it here, and then we could hold delete and touch that pad again. Just copy, and you're holding copy down, and then hold delete and just touch stuff. It's really fast. It's really intuitive. This sort of way to just, easily move one-shots around is just amazing. Sometimes I'll like put, hi-hats on this lower quadrant of 16, and maybe the shakers might kick it over here in this upper quadrant of 16, and if I bring in a ride on like a top track, it might kick it, the samples might. So I'm laying things out, so that my brain sort of understands what I'm looking at. We can even go in here and color the pads individually. So if we wanted to take that extra bit of time, I could color the hi-hats blue and color the rides red and color the shakers green, etc. I'm a little bit colorblind, and I tend to stick with just colors that are simple and that just sort of jump out to me and not do a lot of extra color coding. But that is something that some people find really effective in their workflows. We're going to go back to our effects track now, and I'll go ahead and double click the sample button again to get us back into our sample pool. And I'm looking for anything that's not a chord, that's not a drum sound, that's not a melodic sound, that's not a hat sound. For instance, here's the kick impacts that we made. That's an effect sound, so there's one. Scroll down and we'll get kick impact number 2, because I got a bunch of variations here. I definitely want to try to get that one in with a little squeaky blippy thing on it, because it's just kind of funny to me. That may or may not happen. We'll see if I can find a place for that in the track. I want to stress also that, it's not necessarily that we're just going to use every single sample like repeatedly throughout the track. We definitely want to try to, use as many of these variations as we've got. So we'll see if we can, just how much of this stuff we can use along the way, per se. So that was kick impact 4. And here's our miscellaneous noise. This I'm actually going to separate from these, just like I was just talking about actually. What we'll do is we'll put these up here so that visually, we're on the effects track, so all of our effects are going to go here, but now visually it'll make sense to me if we divide these up, because these are, quite a bit different sounds conceptually than our, vinyl noise and miscellaneous noise layers. So I'll go ahead and tap this upper pad, and we're going to go ahead, and this is one of the things that I really love about the Force, using it this way, because you get to lay out the samples exactly how you want to lay them out. And with 64 pads like right in front of you, remember, if I hit function and octave plus, we go to the next page, and there's yet another page of 64 pads, you guys. This was the Miss Noise 13 then. Cool. And then so over here, I think we go down to like vinyl noise, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's 3 of those. So 1 all the way down, and there's 2, and I'll put the other one right across the top there. Okay, so now we've got our noise layers laid out there, and we've got our kick impacts laid out here. Let's see here. That's officially all of the samples that we've currently prepared for this, but there are a few go-to samples that I use in just about every project that I'm building, and those consist of some special effects samples. Let's go ahead and load those to some pads now and get those inside of our project at this time. Okay, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to just pick a pad. I'd like to put like a down filter sample in that I use a lot. So we're going to go ahead and just select this pad over here so that I can keep it visually separate from the other things we've laid out here. And it's not in the sample pool yet. We haven't loaded it. So this double clicking to get into the sample pool isn't going to help us here. So we're just going to go ahead and click this pad, and we're going to go to the menu, and we're going to click browser, and then we're going to go to places. And now I have my little SD card in the front that we're now navigating the sounds from, and I have a folder here with some effect sounds in it that I like to use. One of them is this kick impact. We'll go ahead and load the kick in. See, what I'll do now is I'll just select whichever pad I want to load a sample to. I think I'm going to load the kick impact of that pad right there. I'm going to click load. I'm going to pick this pad over here, and I'm going to load my down filter on it. Okay, and then I have like a noise impact burst that I like to use. We'll load that rather on a pad next to the down filter. Load. Cool. Let's see here. So we've got the impact, we've got the down filter, and then we've got that little noise there as well. Fantastic. I like to use a crash cymbal often as well. I have a crash in here somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that, and I'm going to load that on the empty pad here. This is definitely one of the things that makes, my sound of dub techno a little bit different than the average sound of dub techno. I do like to use a lot of risers and down filters and crash cymbals in all of my music, whether they're something that other producers use in those genres or not. And you don't typically hear a lot of crash cymbals and risers and these type of effects in dub techno music, and we're definitely going to be adding these. What I've done is I've navigated to a folder of crash cymbals here. These are from my reflective sample pack, and what we're going to do is we're going to load quite a few different crash cymbals in just beneath these here because they're kind of used in the same way per se. We'll load a crash here. Not sure what just happened to the pad color there. We'll fix that in a minute. We'll load this crash here. It's another really good one. It's another big bold one. Ooh, maybe a thin one. Okay, so we've accidentally unloaded this sample, apparently. I could go back, by doing undo, and we could somehow fix that. But that's not really necessary, because this sample is a sample that should be in our sample pool at this point. Or did I even load something there? No, I did, though. I did. Hang on, let's see if we can't fix that. Okay, I think that was just a glitch on my part, but I deleted all those sounds and then loaded everything back into the sample pool here. So we've got our, we've got our down filter, we've got our high pass impact, we've got a kind of a noise impact, and some extra crash cymbals down here. All right, so we are ready to go, you guys. What we've got is we've got a track for our. Let's see, put this into the launch mode so we can. See a little better. We've got 7 tracks that we're currently got, configured inside of the Force. We've got a track for the kick, a track for our tops, a track for the snares and claps, then the bass, then the chords, then the synths, and then the effects. Let's do one last thing today. Let's start going to the mixer and preparing these channels just a tiny little bit. We're going to hit the Inserts tab, and we're going to put as the very first insert on all 7 channels, we'll just click the plus button one time, then we'll double click there, and we're going to select the air parametric EQ, select. Now we're going to select the little edit icon. We're going to ignore this front page for now. We're going to go into this second page. This is one of the most important tips that I can give to any producer. I got this personally from a techno producer named Robert Babbitts. I think I might be saying the name wrong. If I am, sorry, Robert. He's a techno producer who is really well known for having amazing mixdowns that sound amazing and jump out of speaker systems when they're being played on, really big systems. In the interview, he talks about how he sculpts sound, and he talks about frequencies in your mix that don't really need to be there. And what we'll do is this is a couple of filters built into the parametric EQ. We're going to turn those on, and we're going to put one of these parametric EQs and turn these filters on every single track in the mix. And what we're doing is we're literally removing the low frequencies below. I'll hold shift so I can get a little bit closer there. We'll do 29 hertz. We're going to change this to a 24 decibel filter, and we're going to remove all of the low content beneath 29 hertz. Speakers can't really reproduce frequencies that are that low, and your ears can't really hear frequencies that are that low. So when you get them out of your mix, it just sort of clears up, the headroom in the mix. And you can get the overall mix volume a little bit louder, and you don't lose anything sonically, but rather your stuff starts to jump out of systems because the systems don't have to try to reproduce these frequencies that they can't really produce. That sonic content will not be in the mix. So we've turned on the high cut. We're going to leave it at 12 decibel slope, and we're going to leave that frequency at 20 hertz. And now we're shaving off very slightly any frequencies that are above 20 hertz, which the human ear can't really hear anyhow, and which most sound systems can't really reproduce anyhow. We're going to do this on every track. We're going to go back. We're going to put one, double click, air parametric EQ, select, and then I'll go to edit, and I'm going to turn those filters on. I'm going to turn the low cut to a 24 decibel filter and put that, right about 30 hertz. We're going to go back and put that same thing for our snares. Double tap in the effects slot there. Okay, air para EQ, select, then go to the edit, turn these on, change this one to close to 30. 29.5 will be fine. We'll put that on 24 decibels. We're going to do it on the next one. Air para EQ, select. We're going to double tap. Select. We're going to hit the edit button rather, and then we'll turn those on. We're going to turn that filter to a 24 decibel filter and bring this up to right around 30. 29.5 is fine. We're going to go to the next track. Air para EQ, select. We're going to hit the edit button, turn these on, put that one to a 24 decibel filter and bring it up to right about 30. Yep, 29.5 will be fine. We'll double tap to get into the selection menu. We'll choose that air para EQ. Turn these on. Put this up close to 30. Bring that to 24. And one more. Scroll down. Para EQ, select. Okay, turn these on. Bring this close to 30. 29.5 is fine, and bring that to 24 decibels. Now, guys, we have an EQ on every single channel in the mix. They're not on the individual sounds in the mix, and as we, continue this building process, you'll see how I use EQ. It's in my most used sonic weapon when I'm producing. I put EQ on every single sound in the mix for the most part, and we're going to keep sketching, and we're going to keep editing in episode 6. As of now, guys, we're ready to go. We've got, our sounds loaded into our 7 tracks, laid out, and we're ready to actually start some writing and some producing. Look at all those chord steps that we have to work with, guys. This is what it takes. We've got the box filled up with sounds, and we are ready to move forward. I'm going to see you guys on episode 6, and we're going to kick this into high gear. I just realized we didn't save, so I always remember to remind you guys to save. Let's hit the save button and save this project. Don't forget to save.